got me! I decided to do another painting. Some of you guys might know that I actually really like painting with a palette knife and have been trying to warm you guys up to it. Well, I think it's time. This is a lovely seaside painting done with a palette knife, and you can see it's highly textured all the way around, and we're going to tackle everybody's fear of palette knives right now today. I'm so excited! All right. Hello, everyone. As you saw from the intro, we're going to be doing a very different painting today. So I'm just going to start the same way we usually do with a little bit of the goop. You may notice that this is a square canvas where previously we were using the hexagonal canvases. This is also on canvas paper as opposed to being on canvas board. So I just wanted to show that you can do these paintings on different kinds of canvases. I just needed to grab a bit more of the goop because it didn't look like it was covering the whole surface. So. Oops. Didn't mean to hit the camera. I'm so sorry about that. All right, so now that we have that part, I'm going to get some of the white. So this is just titanium white. So if you want to see the colors that we're going to be using today, which I should show you every time. So we have here, that's the goop. And I mixed it with a little bit of the white. This is titanium white. This is quinacrium violet again. This is alizarin crimson. This is yellow ochre. And this right here is a giant pile of burnt umber. Now you can use different reds if you would like to have a different feel. You can use different yellows if you would like a different feel. So feel free to do that. And that's the approximate amounts that I have on all of these. I'll show you the palette at the end if I remember, to show you how much of this I actually use and how much is left. I'll probably use all of that white. I use a lot of white. So let's start in this sky. Right. Now I have spoken about this before, but yellow is not as strong a color as any of the other colors. Literally any of the other colors are stronger than yellow. So if you're going to have yellow in your painting, start with yellow. This is important. So I have a little bit of white still on my brush, and I'm just going to go into the yellow ochre, and I want to just play in the center here to have kind of a sunrisey kind of feel. So I got a little bit of that yellow going on in my brush, and I want it to be very pastel. I don't necessarily want this to be too strong of any one color. I want it to be very, very soft, very, very neutrally kind of soft sunrise. And we're just laying in some base colors, and then we're gonna get crazy with it. As you saw in the opening, that we're gonna get real crazy with this real fast. But for now, we're just gonna lay the colors out so that I have an idea of where everything goes. I'm now gonna mix that soft yellow color with just a kiss of the red, so that it gives me like a nice peachy color. And too much already. So I'm going back into the yellow to kind of make it still peachy colored. All right, there we go. That's a nice peachy color, and we're just gonna come up here and add that peachy color. And I'm going to add that peachy color down on the bottom, like so. Oh, apparently I'm not. Apparently there's going to be nothing on my brush. There we go. And I'm trying to keep this part a little bit flatter than the top part, because this part is water now. So these are our reflections. Notice that I'm keeping the center part white. That's for the sun, to have a little reflection-y part. All right, so now we've got a little bit of that on there. That's good. Now we're gonna get into a little bit more of the white. I'm gonna grab more of the white because I don't have a lot of white left on my brush. So I'm gonna grab a little bit more white, and I'm gonna grab a little bit of that quinacridone yellow, or quinacridone violet rather, I'm sorry. And I'm gonna try to go for like a nice, soft, purpley kind of color to kind of blend into it. Oh, it's perfect. That is exactly the color I was looking for. Oh, beautiful. I'm just gonna make sure the corners are the darkest part. And then using tiny little X's, we're just going to fill in the last little gaps of color. And then we can go ahead and blend everything. But I have to also make sure that this color is in the water part before I blend. Okay, and then into the water part. And now we're just kind of using up the last of the color on our brush here, and that is perfectly fine. All right, and now we can blend. I'm just gonna make sure there's none of that color left on my brush by wiping it off on a paper towel. All right. And now I can come in and start blending these two things together just to make sure that they're nice and smooth, because I want this to be very smooth on the underneath, so that just in case there's any part that doesn't get covered by the palette knife stuff we're gonna do next, that it has a nice base below. That's what I'm looking for, is just a nice base from which we can blend and work with. Now, if I was going to do this not with the palette knife, I would obviously do things like clouds and things like that on the inside, but we're not doing that today. We're getting crazy. Now, this needed to be a little bit more pink, so I grabbed a little bit more of the pink just to blend into the purple a little bit better. That's better. I'm just going to add that down here as well, so that we have it, so it's there. All right, now we don't have to get too crazy with the blending because we're going to be doing some crazy things. So I hope you're ready, because we're going to start. I think we'll start in the center and have like a little bit of a kind of sun situation. So I'm going to be doing this with a palette knife, and from here on out I'm pretty much using the palette knife. So I'm going to try to make like a kind of sun situation. There we go. Which is right there. And I'm just going to have it dance across the sea like so. So we have a nice little sea there. And then I'm going to grab a little bit of the yellow and mix it with the white. So we have kind of this kind of color. I'm just going to go ahead and add some of it over here. This is our first layer of the palette knife, and we can come back and add more layers if we want to add more texture to the whole thing, which we absolutely can do. I'm being very gentle with everything that I am doing here, because I want everything to be kind of gentle. But also when using the palette knife, you want to kind of stay gentle. Just let the canvas pick up what it wants to pick up, and then just kind of work with it in there. Whatever it wants to pick up, you just let it pick it up. When painting with a palette knife, it's more about feeling than it is about being exact. And I know that a lot of artists out there don't like that. They would much rather be much more exacting in how they are applying everything and, you know, getting the results that they specifically want. And I'm not so much like that when I'm painting with a palette knife. I much prefer to just let things happen, and whatever happens, happens. And I just kind of roll with it in terms of how this art kind of rolls together. I'm going to leave the little pile that I have created of the light yellow because I have a little bit of it left. So I'm just going to leave it while I mix up a soft peachy color. Just in case I want to add more of the yellow to it later, I can. There we go. All right, now we've got a nice peachy color, and I'm going to just start adding that peachy color, and you can see it kind of taken over already, and that's fine. I want it to do that. I want it to do whatever it wants to do. That's just kind of how I roll when it comes to these paintings, and I'm just going to kind of slightly blend, very gently. I think I'm going to come back and put white on top of this where they transition to kind of make clouds happen, kind of. I mean, you guys know, you saw the rest of the painting. So, I don't, but you do. So you guys know how this painting looks. And once again, I'm just going to grab a little bit of it and put it down here in the water. Just a little bit. To give it some real texture, because that's what I'm looking for here, is texture. More than anything, I just want texture in this painting. Trying to get this to go up a little bit higher. There we go. Now, when I use a palette knife, I have a very high tendency to just kind of play with it and like let things happen that want to happen and just go by feel. So I don't really have a lot of tips and tricks on how to do it other than to be gentle and to make sure you have that little roll of paint on the end of your knife so that you're using just a little bit of paint. If you can see there on the end, you can see it's a very thin little strip. And I'll reapply constantly to kind of give it that so that I have just like the minutest amount of control over what's happening. I don't really, but having that little bit there helps to make sure that I kind of do. I almost do. There we go. There, get right in there. And then we're just gonna blend this down. There we go. And over on the other side. I already think I need more white. I think I have used up all the white I've got. Oh yeah. Now mind you, this is a palette knife painting, so it will require more paint than a usual painting. Whoa, I hit the, sorry. So I just pretty much doubled the amount of white that I had. I just hit it again, didn't I? Sorry. All right. That is a very big piece. Okay, there we go. There we go. All right, we've got ourselves a fanciful sky. I think I'm gonna leave this part real soft. I think I'm actually, okay, I'm gonna do something crazy, and I'm gonna blend the parts where the two colors meet down here, just slightly. We're gonna keep most of the texture, and I'm gonna come back and add white anyways for more texture. But I want to blend just a little bit on the outside to kind of smooth out where everything is happening. Now you can see it's still very much not blended. I did not blend very much, but I did blend a little bit just because I wanted to kind of smooth it over a little bit. This may also help it dry faster. But also I wanted a little bit more of the colors to bleed into each other. So I'm going to take a smaller brush and I'm going to actually blend this part here together a little bit. There we go. Just a little bit. I think I'm going to make more of the yellow color. So it's going to be a little bit lighter than the yellow color unless I got more yellow. Let's get more yellow. Running out of paint. Very, very, very likely to happen on these palette knife paintings. They use like a lot more paint than you think they do, which it makes them very challenging that they use more paint. There we go. All right. Just add a little more of the yellow to kind of help these two blend together a little bit more. There we go. So you just gotta kind of work with them back and forth to try to get the look you're going for. And that's what I'm doing right now, is just going back and forth between the colors now to try to blend them a little bit more and to make kind of the color I'm looking for happen in the sky. And the more colors you blend into it, the more textured feel it's going to have. So if things aren't exactly the same color, that's okay. Just means you get to play a little bit more and blend them a little bit more. There we go. One of the best things about painting with a palette knife as opposed to the brushes is that you guys get to hear more things happening. Because there's all those scrapey noises. All right. I think I am going to add more white. The middle section here. Just want to make sure it does still look like water at the bottom and not the sun at the top. There we go. Now I know I really haven't done anything down here yet. That's okay. Don't worry about it just yet. We'll get there. Because now I want to do clouds. You gotta work from the background to the foreground. You want to start from the furthest thing away, which in my case is the sun, and then the sky, and then the clouds, and then we'll work on other things. But for now we're gonna add some clouds. Just gonna add some clouds through the sky. Just little wispy things to happen. There we go. And that's giving it a lot of texture in the sky, which I am very much here for. Now I am cleaning my palette knife before each time that I return here, so I'm cleaning it off and then getting more. And that's just to make sure that the bottom color that I'm picking up doesn't contaminate the white color that I have on the side. It's okay if it contaminates this part because that just means it blends better, which is good. But if it contaminates my white, then I have to have a whole new pile of white, which is less ideal. There we go. All right, I'm just gonna try to blend out the bottoms of these clouds to make them a little bit softer on the bottom. I think that will help them look like clouds. There we go. There. Clouds. Okay. Next. I'm gonna add a little bit. No, we're gonna go into the browns, I think. We're gonna go right into the browns. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add brown to this purple that I've mixed. Just gonna mix it so that it's kind of like a purpley brown, sort of. I would argue it's more of a warm brown, if that makes more sense. And now I'm gonna go into this color with a little bit of white on my brush, and we're just gonna go and make this whole thing all the way across the bottom. We're gonna pull straight across, because I want this to be kind of sand. I want it to look like sand is what I'm going for. There we go. Okay, nice and sandy looking. Actually, I'm gonna blend out this part as well, just because it needs to be blended out while I have my brush on here. There we go. There, beautiful, beautiful. Now, let's make some rocks. Rocks are super fun. I'm gonna make a big old rock over here that's gonna kind of be like in the distance. And if it's in the distance, then it's not gonna be as like dark brown. It's gonna be a little bit lighter of a brown. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more white to it to kind of make it look like it's not as far away. And I'm just gonna kind of base in the shape here, and then we'll add texture so that the whole thing looks like a rock. Really get right in there. And sometimes where the tape is doesn't like having paint immediately adjacent to it when using the palette knife. So sometimes it can take a little convincing to get paint to go there. So don't be afraid to convince it to do that. There we go. Want a little bit more of a mound in there. And I want one more mound over there to happen. Just like that. All right. Clean our knife, and I'm gonna go into a little bit of that peachy color because I think that's gonna make a nice highlight. And I'm going to very, very gently, now listen to me when I say this is very, very gentle. You're just going to barely graze the top of this and pull gently, very gently. I don't know if I can say that enough. You have to just barely, like, you guys ever do butterfly kisses with your eyelashes against somebody else? That's how lightly you need to kiss this rock with this highlight. Just like the barest touch here and pull. Just like Eskimo kisses. See? Eskimo kisses. Barely touch it, and you get yourself a nice little highlight there. So I'm also now going to add a splash, because splashes are fun. So first of all, I'm going to clean up the bottoms of this rock. I'm going to actually thin down this white paint a little bit so that it goes over this nicely. There we go. You just really want to push down to make that happen. To get like this line here to happen like that, you got to push down. And now, using not thin down paint, I'm going to go ahead and make a little sploosh. I'm just going to... Sound effects help, by the way. If you're ever scared about doing something on your painting, do sound effects. See? It helped. You might not think it helped, but it did. And I'm just blending that out. Grabbing some more and going across. There we go. And now we have a nice splash on a rock, which looks pretty fantastic if you ask me. So I'm gonna take a little bit of the, actually, you know what, maybe I'll use the thin down white. Let's use a little bit of the thin down white, just to give us a little bit more of like a ripply effect through the water. Really push down to make that happen. And again, I am thinning down my white paint with the liquid clear, and I'm coming in and really pushing down. You can see I'm bending my knife. That is good. That makes those ripples there really look good. And I'm going to do another one right here. So that it gives this like effect that there are multiple waves happening without having to do much, which is really awesome. In case you guys ever want to learn how to do waves super easily, that is a trick right there to doing them. I'm just going to add a little bit more through here so that the white down in the bottom makes a little bit more sense, I guess, is what I want to say. We're going to have like some sort of a horizon line, and that like water is reflecting the sunlight. There we go. There. Just making it a little bit more like there is some reflections and highlights, and water's doing crazy things, because water does that. Water does crazy things. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but water does crazy things. So I bet you're wondering right now, what the heck am I going to do with this giant empty space here and this giant empty space here? Well, I'll tell you. You already saw in the intro. I don't know why I'm playing it off as if you don't already know. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a whole bunch of this brown. Now this is the brown that I mixed with a little bit of the quinacridone violet and a tiny bit of the white, but it's mostly just burnt umber. It's significantly just burnt umber, and that's okay. That's what we want it to be. Actually, I'm going to add all of the quinacridone violet that I have. I'm just going to add all of it, because we're not going to use it for anything else, so we might as well just put it all in here. You know what else? I think I'm going to use some more of the red, and we're just going to make this a really nice warm brown. So I've got like a huge pile of this brown. Just want to indicate that's a big pile of brown, and I used twice as much white as what I previously had. So just to show you that there is a lot of things going on. And now we're gonna make like a big old cave happen. So I'm gonna just start up here, and I'm gonna just fill in our beautiful sky. I'm gonna cover significantly. And it's okay that I pull off most of this paint underneath. That's okay. because we're going to be adding highlights and stuff like that to this whole thing, so it's going to be okay. This might look like poop right now, but you just wait. I mean, you guys already know, but if you're painting along with me and you're like, oh God, what have I done? Don't worry. We'll get there. I don't want to ruin this lovely line that I had with the thinned out white. I don't want to ruin that, so I'm going to try to avoid that as much as I can. So I really liked how that turned out. So just trying to get this paint to spread. I think instead of fussing with it, I think I'm just going to pull it with a paintbrush, and then it'll go in those places and I won't have to waste a lot of paint, because we're going to come back in and highlight it anyways, so that'll give us the texture we're looking for. There we go. We really just need this outside line to exist. There we go. And now we're going to do the other side. And I need more brown paint, because of course I do. That's not brown, that's brown. And a little bit more of that quinacridone violet so I can make the colors at least the same. Or the same-ish. There we go. All right. Just trying to give shape to these rocks on the edges where I want shape to exist. I like to kind of make it look like you're looking like out from a cave is the kind of feeling we're going for. Oh, I keep knocking this camera and I'm so sorry. You'll have to forgive me. Okay, I'm just gonna blend with my brush to make sure that at least I have this full corner here covered. All right, now we've got the whole thing covered. Now we can highlight it, which is the most fun part. Okay, so don't mix these too much for your highlights. You want your highlights to be very subtle, and colorful. So they have a lot of colors going on. So what I'm actually going to do is grab all of the colors that I have and I just want to show you. So that's the peachy color, and then underneath that you can see the yellow color, and then that's on top of the pile of brown that I had. So that's all of the colors. And I'm just going to go ahead and not mix it. I just put it right on top, and I did not mix it, and I just grabbed a little roll of paint on the end of my knife, and I'm just going to highlight very gently on the inside corners of this so that it looks like the cave is kind of highlighted by the sun. So I'm just going to go in here and just like the rock I had out there, you just want to very, very gently, like Eskimo kisses, just kiss these rocks and pull slightly to give them a little bit of texture. And as you apply the color, it will pick up some of the browns underneath and darken naturally, which is great because that means you don't have to mix anything to get it to be darker. And then that way you can use the little bit that's left over to kind of make some rocks happen in the other spaces. I messed that one up, but that's okay. We can come back in and fix it. See? No big deal. I just want to kind of give it some rock shapes, which are kind of lumpy and not really all that finicky. So it doesn't really take that much to give it like a kind of rock feel. You just want to make sure you're very gentle. Very gentle. Just barely kissing the surface of this to kind of give it a little bit of a glow, so it looks like there is something going on in this cave. But it's still a cave, so don't get too carried away with your highlights. And if you do, you can just kind of rub them out. I'm gonna make some of these rocks stand out a little bit more, so they look like they're catching the sun just a little bit on this side, and then I'll do the same thing on the other side to kind of make a little highlighty rock. That's kind of like catching the sunlight, just to make them stand out a little bit more, which I think looks really nice. You don't want to do too many of them, but having like one or two stand out a bit kind of makes it feel more alive. But there we go. Now I know this looks a little bit crappy, but that's because we haven't pulled away the tape yet. When I pull away the tape, you're gonna see it looks pretty good, because a lot of the part that looks like crap is actually on the tape. So this camera has a tendency to sync on me, doesn't it? There we go. There you go. And there you have it. A wonderful seascape done using a palette knife. Don't be afraid to use a palette knife. Go out there and make something really expressive and different and just have fun with it, because you never know what you might end up with. And we ended up today with this lovely seascape with some soft colors and some highly texturized everything. I was gonna say rocks, but then I was like, no, everything is texturized. And I actually am really proud of how this came out. So I hope to see you guys next time. And for now, I would like to say thank you so much to all the people who are supporting me. Thank you for watching. If you like this video and want to see more content, please feel free to like and subscribe and comment on what you would like to see me paint next. If you would like to join my Patreon, I'll leave a link in the description where you can get a painting exactly of this size. If you would like, for one of the tiers, there's a smaller size as well, if you can't afford the big tier, which is fine. And I would love to see you guys later. And also, don't forget that you are loved and deserving of being loved. Mwah!